Welcome everybody. We're very excited to have you here. I am Diane Gubin. I'm co-CEO of C-Suite along with Beth Hilbing. Professionally, I'm an investment banker. I raise money for companies. I am also president of Amplify Professional Services, an executive search and IT consulting firm. For anybody who's new here today, what is C-Suite? C-Suite is a national executives women's organization, and we are female CEOs, CFOs, COOs, CIOs, CTOs, CMOs, presidents, vice presidents, founders, directors, and we always invite women who write checks because we got to bring money to the table. So private equity, venture capital, institutional funds, and of course, angel investors. So our mission, we are all about women's economic empowerment. We truly believe that women working together at the most executive levels, we pull each other up, we work together, we hire each other, and we raise a hand to those who follow. So within C-Suite, no woman ever stands alone. With C-Suite, you are always in the right place, so welcome. Beth.
Yes, okay. So one of the things we wanted to discuss with you today is we want you to become a member of C-Suite, a paying member of C-Suite organization. A lot of you are on our distribution list, and so you get all of the event notifications, the monthly attendee special events and so forth. And so we appreciate all your attendance and so forth. But as you know, as part of a member of C-Suite, there are many things that you get in addition to the inclusion in the larger Zoom meetings and so forth. So we have member only events. We're coming up and having a member only tea party event. We're going to have a wine tasting event. We do in-person events, et cetera. And those are to recognize and bring forward our members. You also have on-demand C-level programming. You have access to all the other executive members and a directory of access of information to contact them and network with them and build your network. We also are very proud to announce, and we'll be doing more marketing on this and rolling this out to our members, that we're joining forces with the Founders Card, and they're out of London, England. And it has over 50,000 members, and it's all at the C level, and it's all promoting around the very best products and services, travel, business, and lifestyle brands with huge discounts. And so they're working with us to offer this opportunity to us, this card, at a substantially discounted price. And you'll have access to discounts from over 500 benefits from top global brands like Audi, UPS, British Airways, Slack, AT&T, BMW, Dell, Adidas, just to name a few, but there's over 500. So stay tuned for that. You also have access to our C-Suite job board, and that's a job board that pulls jobs from all over, and Diane will go into that right now with you.
Okay, so if you are looking to staff for your company, this job board is specific for executive level positions and also for women on boards. So if you're a candidate, put your resume in the database, or if you're looking for people, we can actually offer you 2 free job postings, and just send me a note and I'll send you the details on that.
The other thing with the job board too, you should know as a member, you will have access to women on board positions. We're starting a new women on board opportunity for our members and helping them to achieve those positions. So that's another net benefit of being a member. Next. So we want to thank our sponsors. This is a list of our sponsors for C-Suite, but in particular, our gold and silver sponsors: Google, Converge. Todd Smith is Director of Sales. He's one of our lead contacts through the Converge company. Woodruff Sawyers, Leslie Slay is a member of C-Suite, Senior VP and Partner for Employee Benefits. And Manette, Donna Wilson, who's the CEO of Manette Law Firm, is also one of our members for C-Suite and a gold sponsor. So thank you.
And Red Rover, we always have a charitable component to C-Suite, and Red Rover is our philanthropic partner for the year. Nicole Forsyth, who is a member of C-Suite, she couldn't be here today. Oops, she's on the ground. Okay, Nick, thanks for turning that off. Nicole right now is on the ground building a domestic violence pet space at a humane society in New Hampshire. And the reason Red Rover, Red Rover, they work with saving pets who are separated during natural disasters. And at least here in California, we've had so many fires, we've had to evacuate. You know, I always worry about, you know, my pets and how I'm going to get back together with them if we're separated. So that is part of the work that Red Rover does.
And you can also become a volunteer for them, like I am, to help them with the rescuing of the pets. It's going to break my heart, I'm sure, but it's a very worthwhile cause. And if you feel like donating, please go to their site and donate. Anything that you can helps them.
We always make a donation on behalf of C-Suite after every program.
When we picked him up, they were fine, healthy, happy. We were all glad to see each other, but they were just fine, and we were so grateful that
they were in good hands.
Yeah,
very good hands, and it was a real benefit to us with no home, no facilities, to be able to sort that process out and know that our dogs were being cared for, and probably even better than what we care for.
At school, him and his friend Anthony, they're talking about this kitten, and somebody else is saying they threw a rock at it, and they're able to have these conversations at such a young age. I think it's great, and they can only continue to grow from it. And I just hope that more teachers can utilize this program. I think it would be great, because if you can start ingraining in them in their core at such a young age, then it's endless.
Told me about Red Rover, which it seemed like unheard of at the time that there was people there to help with such a situation. They helped fund my dogs to be in boarding for 2 months so that I could go to the Be Safe House and get the help that I needed, get the counseling that I needed and the support. My dogs are the reason why I'm, you know, doing anything. They are my children. You can feel really discouraged when you don't feel like you have a lot of support. But, you know, there's wonderful people out there like Red Rover and the people that give to them, and Weave too. They're working around the clock all the time.
So now that we've made everybody sad for the event, we want to mark your calendars for the next couple events. We are offering a CEO roundtable to our members, a tea party and networking event for our members, a Women on Board roundtable for our members. And then on May 20th, this will be open to the complete distribution list. It's Pitch Perfect Anytime with Mimi Donaldson. And Carolyn Sims, who's one of our committee members, had introduced us to Mimi. And she is fabulous, and you will totally love it. And she helps you determine how to get yourself, your brand, your presence, everything together to enhance your career and your personal and professional life. So with that.
Thank you, Beth. And so I'd like to introduce Tammy Tran. Tammy is the Senior Manager in Local Public Affairs at Southern California Edison, where she leads the Orange County Government Relations team. And Tammy is going to be moderating today.
Thank you so much, Diane, and thank you, Beth. I'm very happy to be a part of today's program. Women on Boards is very near to my heart. I know all of you, you know, we had a great time celebrating Women's History Month, and I always think about my mom, who was a refugee from Vietnam, and how much I look to her as an example of women who have, you know, trailblazed through norms, and she did so even in a country like Vietnam. So I'm very honored to moderate today's session on Women on Boards, and to introduce Appointment Secretary Cathryn Rivera-Hernández. She was appointed by Governor Newsom in June 2019 to serve as the Appointment Secretary. This is a very powerful position. Secretary Rivera-Hernández is in charge of making sure that all of the boards and the state boards and commissions are filled by the people of California. Earlier, before her current role, Cathryn served in served under 3 different administrations. And so she comes with a lot of experience serving on boards herself. When she was part of Governor Gray Davis's administration, she served as a governor's liaison to various state agencies, departments, and boards, including the Health and Human Services Agency. As a member of the cabinet, Cathryn was responsible for overseeing the development and implementation of administration policy and legislative initiatives with the agencies. She also served as a special legal counsel. Cathryn received her bachelor's degree from Arizona State University and obtained her law degree from the University of Berkeley. Welcome, Cathryn. We are happy to have you here today with us.
Thank you so much. This is such a great opportunity. It's very unique in a lot of ways. And as I had mentioned to a smaller group earlier, we recruit from all over, though I just really welcome a chance to kind of demystify maybe a little bit about what appointments process is about. So I really look forward to our discussion.
And that's the purpose of today's session, is to demystify the process, because I feel like it's a process where all of us, all 80 people that are on the screen today, can really become women on boards. And these are positions that are I would say, very powerful. We all know about elections and how there are more and more women being elected to office, whether it's in Congress or in our local city halls. And serving on a board, serving as a governor's appointee on a state or a state board or commission is another way of giving back to our community. So, Secretary, maybe I'll just call you Cathryn, since we're all girls.
Yeah,
on
please.
this call.
Yes, please. Yeah, I tell people, you can give me a fancy title, but this is not as glamorous as it might sound.
Yeah, well, titles are important, right? And as women, we have to make sure that we own our titles. But Cathryn, if you could share with us and help us demystify, what is the overall appointments process here in California? And for the women that are also tuning in from all over the country, can you share with us in a nutshell what the appointment process is all about?
I won't promise a nutshell, but I'm going to do my best. So first of all, one is I'm just really proud to work for this governor. I did not know him before I came on board. I was actually very happy. Had just been confirmed to my 4th term at the Agricultural Labor Relations Board. Had not sought any involvement with the administration when I received the phone call. And I think it's really a testament to very much what your organization is about. It's about, women saying, hey, I remember her. She used to do this. Let's see if she would like to do this job, and kind of reaching out and supporting each other. I'm proud to say that of the governor's 7 senior staff, 6 of us. So he clearly sees the leadership qualities, and even over 52 plus of our appointees. So the commitment is, absolutely there. I will note that we have about 3,000 appointments responsible for, and that includes 300 board and commission slots. So, people kind of do these talks as people kind of think it's game, and with those numbers, that's not really possible. We are constantly trying to fill very critical positions. And so when I say it's not glamorous, it is, we are an employment agency. And so, we recruit people in many different ways. There's the governor's website, the gov.ca.gov website. And there you not only have the application itself, but there's a list of boards and commissions and vacancies that are updated monthly. There's a list of current opportunities with paid jobs within the administration where we are having maybe trouble recruiting or finding people. And then there's a list of my deputies and their portfolios. So that was something, having been on the other side of this process 4 times, I really came into this job very differently, because I had taken away the good and the bad of each of those experiences, because they were all very different. I really tried to be more transparent, provide as much information as possible. As you said, demystify, don't make it seem like there's this political black box that you can't get into without knowing somebody. So the deputies' emails are there. I encourage people to reach out to them directly, because they will be the best source of information. And then, people often ask, what's the governor looking for, in an appointee? And I repeat what he has said many times. He is looking for an administration that looks like the people it serves. And it's not just, we're beyond just gender and ethnicity, diversity. It really is about where people live, where did they grow up, what was their upbringing like, what personal or professional experiences is leading them to think about serving. Because when I go in with the governor, that's really what we talk about. He knows the boxes have all been checked by the time I walk in there. He wants to know, who is this person? Because that's his only opportunity to really get to know the people in his administration. So, and then just, what we often do, because there's also kind of an idea that you fill in an application, it goes into a void, and some people hear about, sometimes they don't hear about. And so I say many times what we're putting together is a puzzle. So people are constantly rotating off boards because they are in terms, and people are often, especially during COVID, making life decisions, right? Just about, I think I want to go spend more time with my grandchildren. I think I'm ready to end this career and go do something else. So it is a constant churn. So what we usually do is we look at the talent, the skill set that is rolling off of a board, and we'll say, what are we missing here? Do we need a marketing expert? Do we need a lawyer? Do we need a financial expert? Many of the jobs that you all do, we're always looking for people who have a certain level of expertise. We're also often looking for geographical representation. We have made a very concerted commitment to both the Central Valley and the Inland Empire that are both sorely underrepresented here in California on boards and commissions. So we are usually pull off what we call, we're looking for the unicorn. You put it all into the system, that comes out, and then we get a smaller list of individuals, and those are the individuals that we kind of use to then go through the interview process and then ultimately make a decision, and then of course take those decisions to the governor.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. I think some, and in the context of like, when people are ready to apply, besides that, what you shared, what are some other factors? Let's say if Nancy or Barbara or Joni that's on the call today, if they wanted to apply, sometime this week or next week, what are some of the factors they should consider before they make the decision to apply?
I think one of the primary factors and one of the issues that we often run into is, do you have the time? Because it does depend on the board and commission. So what I recommend to people is figure out what you might be interested in, and then Google it, because that will take you to the website where you can see exactly how often do they meet, how long are the meetings, where are the meetings. I mean, we know where we're all meeting right now, but I don't know what post-COVID is going to look like. How complex are the issues? That will give you just and you can see the other board members too. So that just gives you a really good feel for if this is something that you will, be able to do. The other thing it will tell you is how controversial a certain board or commission might be. If you don't want your name in the paper, you can usually discern whether that is a possibility, and that's not for everybody. So that's what I took, because I feel like it's something that's very exciting, but when you get into it, people are sometimes surprised by the amount of work, and not that they are all work intensive. We have many different boards, but that's, I think, the best way. The other thing that I will let you know is when I reference the process about pulling people off, if you put your application in and you list whatever you list as your interests, if your name comes out, if we're looking for a certain person, we will call you anyway, even if you did not list that board, commission, or spot. Because this is what we're looking for. And we cold call people all the time and say, hey, would you be willing to take a look at this? We think you might be a good fit for this board. And it's okay to say no. People tell me no every day. I called somebody the other day and she said, I'm sorry I didn't pick up. I thought you were a telemarketer. And I said, oh, I am a telemarketer. Believe me. So we cold call people all the time. So that's the other part of it is, if we think you might be a good fit for something, we'll definitely reach out.
Yeah. Cathryn, you speak a lot about the process in California. We have a number of women that are across the country. Is the process similar, and can they look up that information online, or how's the best way for folks that are in other states looking, what's the best way for them to look up opportunities?
Yeah,
Google?
my understanding from at least my counterparts, so it's kind of interesting, there is actually a group of appointments, people from across the nation, is that most of them have the same online application system. I'm sure they all operate very differently internally, and clearly California, given its size, has a lot more than other states do, just given our size. But I believe most of them have the same ability to access the application. I don't know how transparent they are about contact information and all of that.
Yeah, Cathryn, can you talk a little bit more about the appointments? Are they paid, non-paid? What the compensation or time commitment involved could be? And I know it varies, right, across the different types of boards.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have both. We actually have, there's kind of three bins. We have, of course, paid positions within the administration. I'm looking for a labor secretary right now. And again, I think people think, oh, they must already have somebody, in mind that's perfect for this. We don't. I tell people, but we don't. So I am very much looking for a labor secretary. I don't, from wherever they are come from, and positions like that are paid and within the administration. And then for boards and commissions, we have really only a small number of boards and commissions that are paid either full-time or part-time. There's maybe, I think, 12 to 15 of them. That one of them is the one that I served on for 15 years, the Agricultural Labor Relations Board. It's a full-time job. You actually are not allowed to have any other outside employment, and then it is you're paid a salary. The vast majority of the boards are non-paid volunteer positions, and we do pay per diem because we know that people may have to take time off from work and that they're spending time that they would be doing something else, either preparing for a meeting. So we do, and it ranges from 50 to 400 depending on the amount of work. We have some very large, high profile. Everybody wants to be a UC Regent. Everybody wants to be on the education boards or on the film commission. Those boards very often are I've been told by our appointees, are like having another part-time job. And that you don't get paid for.
So Cathryn, what you're saying essentially is that people can keep their current job and be appointed. Is that correct?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What's your experience in terms of, so folks can keep their job and be appointed. What's your experience generally in terms of employers being supportive of their employee being appointed to a state or board commission? Yeah.
We haven't really run into any issues with that, because I think people who apply kind of vet that, whether there's a problem or, and we have great relationships. I have great relationships with many, state businesses and corporations. I often speak to the chambers, and, I think they like the idea of having their people involved. And for example, we have a lot of licensing boards, and those are made up of people who are actually in that profession, in addition to people we have what we call public slots. And for us, that's the accountability slot. Those are state of California sitting there making sure that the board is doing what it's supposed to. They also tend to be the people that we stay in touch with as an administration. And they are supposed to be people who have zero interest in financial interest or job or anything like that within that area. They're often very hard to fill, because as you can imagine, who wants to go on the podiatry board public slot? And I mean, God bless them. I'm glad people are willing when we beg, but they are not, like I said, it's not all glamour and all of that, but we do need people in those slots. So yeah, I mean, I think generally people are supportive, and they're also good for people who are starting out, maybe who've never served on a board before. I like to talk to them about the public slots on the licensing boards. It's a great way to get your start.
Yeah. Can you give us some examples of some of those licensing boards to give folks a flavor of that?
Yeah, I mean, we have them for pretty much every profession you can probably think of. We have the medical board, the nursing board, we have osteopathic, we have geology, engineering. I mean, it goes on, barber and cosmetology. So pretty much if there is a profession In California, we have a board, and I'm talking about even the structural pest board who regulates and takes complaints up for our pest control businesses. I mean, it's all on there. There are a lot. There are a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you're speaking to this, that, you know, there are specific requirements for certain board appointments, but there's also a misconception that you must have government experience or experience in a particular career path in order to apply. Can you speak to this and some of the opportunities that are available for those that don't have those types of experience?
Yeah, I mean, and that's just, yeah, that's not accurate. I mean, there are, as I mentioned, licensee slots where you have to be, you know, employed in that area. We are really trying to bring people in from all walks of life. You know, we don't want everyone to have the same, you know, kind of thought. And so for us, it's definitely, most people do not have government experience. Most people are people who work in the private sector somewhere, who serve on these boards, and especially in the public slots. So, you know, and the other part of it is, because of the way the terms work, as people are rolling off and new people are coming on, it ensures that there is a stability of knowledge. So as people come on there, we set them up for, you know, success. There is an executive director, there's a staff. They will prepare you, they will answer all of your questions, but also we pair those appointees up with our other appointee who can help guide them. So I think sometimes people might think like, I wouldn't know what I was doing. I wouldn't know like what questions to ask, or I don't, you know, we help to support all of that because we know, and I said the same thing about my job. Until I didn't do appointments. I had no idea. Even in the Davis administration, I'd walk by the office and I'd see them all working, and then I'd see a press release. I didn't know anything about what the process was. So, you know, in many instances, you know, you don't know until you've given it a shot, but we really do try to set people up for success in that way to make sure that they're supported as they may be embarking on in a role that they have not tried before.
Mm-hmm. Before I ask the next question around diversity, exactly what you talked about, I want to do a quick plug for my employer at Southern California Edison. We have a number of appointees. Joseph Williams was just appointed to the Board of Governors for the California community colleges. And I know we have a number of Edison women that are on the line too. And I'm hoping that by the end of this session, they'll go ahead and start applying for one of the appointments. So thank you, Cathryn, for also, you know, joining Edison, I think a couple of months ago or last year, where you put it also the same, you know, putting people on boards. So my next question is around diversity. And I know for the governor's administration, he is prioritizing diversity and inclusion. Can you speak to how you're doing that day to day and making sure that we have candidates on state boards and commissions, and what can we do to help support that?
Yeah, I mean, this governor has been pretty upfront, and what we found is, you know, when I came in, is there are a lot of areas where diversity, you know, where people have started. Let's talk about environment or even water and energy to some extent. There was a time, you know, where you just did not see women, you didn't see women of color or people of color in those positions. Over the last several years, people have obviously started going into those areas. So one of the discussions I had with the governor specifically is, I said, you know, we've got a board, and this isn't unusual for our boards. We have a board. The guy that's been on there has been there, you know, for 10 years. He is the most knowledgeable person on this subject. I have a woman of color who has been doing this for 7 years. And what do you want to do here? Because there will be a learning curve. And he said, well, how are we going to get diversity if we're not allowing for that? And I said, I absolutely agree, but I just want you to be mindful that people are going to say, oh my gosh, how could you move this guy off? And, you know, and part of it is people get their opportunity to serve, but we're trying to provide more opportunity. And in his mindset, that is going to require, as I mentioned, you know, we try to create people, set them up for success. She'll have the support, give her the opportunity, and you know, let's go. She obviously had the confidence and an ability to do it. So, I mean, that is something that occurs every single time, you know, we're looking at appointments. It's a weighing of sort of maybe historically how things have been done, and a very concerted effort to make sure that we are bringing in people who are, you know, diverse. And again, it's all diversity. you know,
Right.
and upbringing, you know, we want people who have, you know, a certain voice. We put a woman who had been a battered wife. She killed her husband. She was pregnant. And this was before battered women's syndrome was a defense, and went to prison. She ended up getting a writ and being released. She had her son who served in the military, and we appointed her to a board on state and community corrections. And so that's a really specific example of when I talk about diversity of experiences, because a lot of the time people will often tell me, well, I didn't apply because I didn't think I would have been a strong candidate for this reason or that reason. And I tell everybody, like, don't take yourself out of the game. Give us that chance. Like, let's have that discussion, because I've never seen a governor more here for a comeback story than this governor. That is what he wants to know. And what did you learn from that? And what did you do after that? You know, and how has that brought you now to want to serve? That's what he wants to know about. So it's been great for me to be able to do that, to provide people with these wonderful opportunities to take something that was a very obviously difficult experience and use it in a very positive way.
And I think that's so great for California, right? To have people that have that lived experience and be able to channel that into shaping policy and changes for good. That's great to that type of experience can be fueled for into a board appointment. We have a question from Linda Zamora in the chat, and apparently I believe Linda has applied and put in her application several times, but hasn't heard back. So how can she and others that have put in their application be able to make a connection with you or your office when they submit their application?
So, excuse me. So what I would suggest is I would contact the deputy that's responsible for what you have applied for, because what the deputy will tell you is, again, if, for example, we put in for the unicorn, you know, and we were looking for this or that in this, they will be able to tell you, because that's the other thing that I changed. I mean, quite drastically, if I'm being honest, is that I told people, one, you're going to be accessible. Two is you're going to tell them the truth. And it's not always going to be what they want to hear. And I said, you know, that's the best that we can do. And so they will tell you, for example, well, what we were looking for is this, and what we're going to be looking for next is that. Maybe there's something else, rather than, you know, we have the volume that we have coming through at any given time does not allow them to sort of check in with people, but they will respond if people check in with them. And they could probably be more helpful if there's a board or commission that, you know, just is not ever going to be, you know, I mean, I could tell you, like the Commission on Women and Girls, any of the education boards, I mean, the volume and the competitiveness of those is just, Transportation Commission is another one of those, is just so high. You're competing with hundreds of people. And not that I don't encourage people to do that, but I will tell you that that is the case, so that you know that going into it. And so that's what I would recommend. The other thing too is, if you look at the vacancy list, all the boards and commissions are there. Even if there's not a vacancy listed now, reach out now, because we will continue to say, oh, well, this person reached out. We are going to have, people are always terming out every month. That's why I have a job, right? It's every month this is happening. So they would be able to tell you, well, yeah, in 6 months, by the way, you know, we'll be looking. I will tell you right now, just this morning, I got off with my team before this meeting, and we're looking for a board member for a public board member for the California Medical Board. That is a huge job in a lot of ways, and it's very high profile. And so, you know, but we're looking, we're trying to find someone who can be kind of our person to go and, you know, be a part of that. So, you know, it's, you know, there are just so many opportunities. And so if you're not hearing back about the opportunity that you know, asked about, ask about another one, or let them ask you what, you know, if they have another one.
Where can you find the list of your deputies? Is that available on the website, or is that something that someone can call or email about?
Yeah. I mean, we
know you, but we don't know all your deputies, right?
Right. So, yeah. So it is on the website. The list of the deputies and their portfolios is on the website.
Okay, perfect. So we do know that you're looking for a secretary Secretary of Labor and a member of the California Medical Board. So hopefully one of those two are on this call today. So
that would make my day.
okay, C-suite, it's time to deliver. So I wanted to ask a couple more questions around the appointments process, and then we'll go into like what it means to be an appointee, right? And kind of getting a flavor of that. Would you, so I think the other thing that we wanted to ask is, if you get appointed, I mean, what's involved? Is there a swearing in ceremony? Is there a big celebration? Or can you talk a little bit about that? About once your staff identifies a possible appointment, what happens from there?
Yeah, so what usually happens is, we notify you, give you the good news, and then we work on your bio because we release publicly all of our appointments and our press releases. And then usually the person will need to be sworn in. They usually get sworn in the day of their first meeting, is how it's normally done. But they can be sworn in by anyone who is authorized, and we can tell you who this, some people are close to maybe a judge or an assembly member, or somebody like a senator. But we also have somebody, I have to have somebody on my staff who's a notary in order to swear people in too. And right now, what we've kind of been doing with any of the big ones, I am actually swearing in a new deputy on Monday. We do a Zoom for their friends and their family. So I don't know how big the celebrations. I'm a little bit, under the guidelines, so I'm not sure exactly how big they're supposed to be. But yeah, it is a big deal. And there's the oath, and that gets submitted to the Secretary of State. And then I don't want to scare anybody off, because I want to make sure also people know that they will see Senate confirmation. Most of our appointees have to go through Senate confirmation. Again, I went through it 4 times. It sounds really scary. It's not. We have a person on our team. We have actually a couple of people on our team that work with the Senate rules. We have a great relationship, with them. They are not trying to get, they're trying to be helpful to our appointees, but they have their process, and we walk you through all of that. They will have you fill out what's called a Form 700. And this is important to know. And that is a public financial disclosure document where you list investments, and maybe you have multiple homes or, that kind of thing. You don't have to list your primary residence, but pretty much everything else. And that is available online to the public. And that is to assure you don't have any conflicts with the in the area that you will be serving. So we turn that in, we give them their resume. They then will send you questions. We help you with that. Also, the staff at whatever the entity is that you're serving will help with those answers as well. So we work very closely, and then they ultimately, within a year, will set a date to have you come. Well, at some point, people will start coming back to the Capitol. To come to the Capitol, they're doing it on Zoom right now. And then you would essentially testify. They ask you questions, you answer the questions, you will be very prepared. And then they vote, and then it goes to the Senate floor. So then they vote. So that is a little bit of a process that happens with the majority of our appointees. But again, I don't want it to scare anybody off. They're very helpful.
Yeah. It sounds like it's an opportunity to tell your story and why you'd be passionate about serving on this board, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You haven't done it yet. So that's the other thing that's an advantage. My first hearing was definitely easier than my last one. It's like you're coming in new, so you haven't done anything yet. So they're really just making sure that you're qualified and, ready to go serve. So it's not a nice experience.
That's great. That's great. So nothing to be intimidated by, especially right now that it's done on Zoom, and we're all very used to that. And hopefully at some point we'll be able to do it in person. I wanted to kind of get a quick digital show of hands. How many of you at this point are interested in putting your application? So if you can go ahead and just do that, or a heart, just to show, to give Cathryn a little bit of motivation that she's convincing you guys. If not you personally, is there someone in your network that you would, promote this opportunity to? So a quick show of hands, thumbs up, hearts, and things like that. Great. So you're convincing people, Cathryn. Thank you very much.
I'm going to be following up with you guys.
Okay. So I guess I want to, another question, and we'll see if anybody else has further questions, but, you know, is there a specific, you know, time frame to serve? Are there term limits? Can you talk a little bit about that, the mechanics of once you've been sworn in, you've had the celebration, what are the kind of responsibilities and what should you expect to be once you're an appointee?
Yeah, so they are terms, and they do vary, usually around either 2 or 3 years. Obviously, life happens if something comes up, and it does happen when people have to come off. You know, that's fine. We won't, like, you know, tie you down or anything like that. But they usually do have those terms, and then you usually are allowed to go for one more term, and then at that point, then there can be no more reappointments, and that really has worked out, I think, well, and they're all staggered as well. So, you know, it allows for kind of smooth transitions on the various boards.
A question from the chat box. Do you have to live in a geographic area where a vacancy exists that interests you? So are there certain appointments that are like geographic specific?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because there are like the licensing boards, not really. We're looking for diversity in geography, but there really isn't any rules around them. But there are boards, like, for example, the water boards. They are very specific to certain areas of California, and so people need to reside in those areas of California for the water boards. There's are some where we are limited as far as we can only have, and this is just a very small number, where we can only have one person from that county be on that board. And so we think about that when we put somebody on. We could, you know, have to spread that out. But for the majority, there really is not. But as I mentioned, the governor's been very specific about wanting to expand Central Valley and Inland Empire geography. So that's always kind of is a consideration for us.
Okay. A question from the chat box. Can you discuss some of the liabilities, or, you know, as it relates to being a board member or appointee?
Well, I hope there are not liabilities, but I mean, you are now in the public space. People now, you know, that are interested, for example, in the medical board, everybody has advocates on both sides of any issues. You know, there are people who think they should be doing more, and others who say, you know, they're doing a good job. So, you know, you have to be, and they're not all like that, but I do know that the medical board is one of those high profile boards for the administration. That most of the other ones, don't think you really have to worry too much. They're, you know, everybody's just getting the job done. And so, you know, I don't think there's any problem with that. But clearly, you know, when we go through the interview process, I should mention, so you will start out usually at the department level, and then may or may not, depending on the board, move to the agency level interview. But every single appointee is interviewed then by the governor's office. And that includes one of my deputies, and a policy person from the cabinet unit that works in that area. And so for us, I mean, that's really our chance to answer really specific questions about that board, and, you know, also be able to learn a lot more about, you know, the individual. Again, I don't want that to sound scary either, because really we're looking to bring people in, not really to exclude. If we have multiple great, fantastic candidates, then, you know, we'll find somewhere else for the other person if we have to. So, but I hadn't mentioned that before, so I just wanted to make sure that, like, that is what the interview process is like.
Yeah. Thanks, Cathryn. I see Molly and Cathryn with their hands up. I don't know if you guys wanted you wanted to raise your hand to ask a question, or you're just affirming that you're going to be applying tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, just confirming.
Okay, perfect. Well, any other questions in the chat box? I don't see any unless Beth or Diane, you've seen it. I missed it.
No, I don't. But I would like to ask Cathryn, your journey and through your career, what do you feel has uniquely qualified you to be in in a position, in a political position, because it's very hard and very complicated. There's no true answer.
Well, I think I might have shared this in our conversation whenever that was, a month or whenever that was, because I just think it's really ironic because I do get asked that. I get that asked by young women that I mentor. How do I get into a job like this? And I think I said I have a really bad answer, which is, God knows. I mean, I had no idea what an appointment secretary was when I was a kid. Grow up thinking, hey, someday I want to do that, because there, again, are cheaper ways than going to law school to get to this point. So I probably wouldn't have done that. I thought I was going to be a corporate lawyer, and mainly because I grew up poor, and I didn't want to be poor again. And so I thought, well, that was all I knew. And 8th grade was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I got my business degree, went to Berkeley. But during that time, I also worked for a firm doing project clerk for a corporate law firm. And I also worked for U.S. Senator Dennis DeConcini for free in his constituent office. So I really enjoyed the service more than the firm. So I knew I was in trouble when I went to Berkeley because I had no idea what I was going to do after that. But really, the only reason I'm sitting here, well, I shouldn't say the only reason. One of the main reasons I'm sitting here today is because the nonprofit that I worked for after law school, which was a nonprofit that served immigrants and did English language classes and helped farm workers, went under. And a politician, Gil Cedillo from the LA area, said, would you be willing to go on the Gray Davis campaign? He's not going to win, but at least it'll give you something to do and get paid for a couple months while you look for a job. I said, absolutely. Here I go off to the campaign, and I'm over there making packets, and I wasn't being a lawyer. I was just doing whatever they asked me to do. Just happy to be there. So it was interesting because he won, which was unexpected. And then he appointed the head of that campaign, the ground campaign, Susan Kennedy, as his cabinet secretary. So she called me after the November and said, hey, you want to come with me? He's only given me one person. And I said, well, what are we going to do? And she cursed and said she had no idea. She did not know what, we showed up at the Capitol on inauguration, day. We got one of those little maps where they show how a bill becomes a law.
That's cute.
We walk in, there's nothing there. They had taken, of course, everything was stripped, and we were like, well, let's figure this out. So that's when I say, you can't plan for that. What I will say is I did ask her, and I think I had shared this, I asked her later, why me? I mean, there were so many, I had 2 conversations with her in 3 months. Why did you ask me to come with you? And she said, whenever I left the office, you were still there. And that's what I wanted. I wanted somebody that would work hard, because nobody's going to have specific knowledge about this process. She's like, I just needed somebody who I knew would be committed to figuring it out. And so, I tell people, you've got to do the job you're doing now and do what you're doing now very well. People are going to notice. And, then there will be opportunities, and they will come to you with those opportunities. So you'll have at least, the chance to explore, because, but for, me working, late and kind of being there and committed, and having some common sense, that's what all she needed. She's like, and we figured it out, and we figured it out over 4 years, together. But it was also that work during those 4 years, because I left then to the board. I was done. It was dog years. I went to the board. I, had been there for 15 years. I was not looking for a change. I've got 2 teenage children. I did my job really well. I was very happy. I was helping, farm workers, it's like, great life. So when I got the call saying, by the way, this is what, would you consider doing this? It took me a minute. I did not immediately jump at it, because I know what it means. And it was me giving up my secure 4 years there, because I had been confirmed for something I had no idea. I didn't know the governor. I didn't know if he was the real deal. I honestly felt very scary. And I asked around, I was like, is this guy for real, or is he just like a movie star looking, I honestly, I had to ask, and I'd ask people I trusted. Many of them were already serving and had said yes, which told me something. And so, I went to lunch with one of the staff people, and they said, so essentially, I'm going to sit here with you until you say yes. So I asked all my questions, and I did ultimately say yes, because I'm here. But there's no, and this was a very, very long way of answering your question. But I just think it's so important because I'm sure many of you have various paths that landed you where you are. And I just always try to encourage the girls that I work with, to just hone your with skills, like whatever you have now. Networking is important. Being good to people is important. The other thing I tell them is, you don't burn any bridges. Find that one person that you can vent to that person. Don't go around bad mouthing people, because, and especially not in Sacramento, and especially not in politics. Memories are long. We are all recycled in various lives, and that kid, that person that you're talking about could be your boss tomorrow. So, I tell people it's just if you do the work, opportunities are absolutely going to come to you.
What do you see on your horizon? I don't know if you're going to hate this question, but what do you desire to do next? I can't even imagine, because I'm just so in the midst of this. I mean, I have only been here because I didn't start on day one. So I've been here for less than 2 years. Okay. I will say it's a lot. I mean, it's still a lot. It feels like, and it's very much like dog years. And I just, I have no idea, because I sort of thought after this I would just retire. And my husband said, and do what? You're gonna be like, what, 56? Like, he's like, what are you gonna do? You can't just sit at home. So I have no idea, but I'm really excited about it. Probably even more so now, because the appointments is really different. We get exposed to everybody. So cabinet works with, the policy people, with all of the agencies and departments and staff. Ledge works with all of the members, the assembly members, the senators. We work with all of them, but we also work with every single person the governor knows. We are the only ones, and that's what he says. You are the only one that knows that guy from high school, that guy from down there, the guy that did this, it's like, we are the only ones that, talk to and meet with and, engage with his entire spectrum of friends and, former colleagues. So it'll be interesting to see, just because I get exposed to a lot that I had been a government person. I had been in the cabinet. So this is very different. I'm being exposed a lot more to people in the private sector, and just hearing a lot about what other people are doing, which always is very exciting to learn about. Okay, no, that's great. That's fabulous. So, we want to go ahead, I think, and open it up just to a couple more questions, if anyone has any. I know sometimes people get shy, but let's take 2 questions and then we'll kind of wrap it up.
Hey Beth, it's Carolyn, and I'll address. There were 2 questions in the chat that I'm not sure were specifically called out. So one was, how many appointments does a governor have per year? And then the second part of that question is, if you are appointed and you have a job, are those meetings during the day, in the evenings, virtual, in person?
So there's about actually a little over 3,000 total positions. And because they are termed, it's just a constant rotation. So people will often ask, like, when do you get to be, to when you're full? And we're never full, because there is a constant terms ending every single month. Also, I get resignations and retirements every week. An appointee is leaving. So it is just a constant movement. And for example, I go in with the governor every week. Last week, I took in 50 people. So that kind of just gives you an idea, like at any given time, my deputies are probably working, from 60 to 100, in a week, where they're touching different spots. And then by the time we go in, so it is just constant as far as that movement. And also what I say is, I just want to keep people in their seats. not being very successful, especially with the new administration coming in. We are losing people. I mean, it's good for California. I told the governor that, but it, you know, in reality, is hard losing
There's a
folks.
big hawk out there.
Right.
So yeah, so you know, there is constant movement and constant opportunity. And then remind me, I'm sorry, what was the second part?
Yeah, second part was really if you are successful in getting appointed right now, you know, as we're kind of going through the different phases of going back into the office or not, are most of these meetings in person, especially if you have a job? Are they virtual? Are they nights, weekends? How does that part work?
So most of them are probably during the day. So people have to take a day off or part of a day off of work to participate. And that may be once every 3 months. It might be once a month. It just depends on the board. But yeah, most of them do occur probably during like the work day. And right now they are all on Zoom. I will be interested to see if that changes because, you know, we just never envisioned this. So, you know, I mean, I really think COVID has changed everything. I can't imagine why people would need to fly and travel for a meeting anymore. But I don't think any sort of final decisions have been made. But right now, they're all on Zoom.
I know people get Zoom fatigue, and I know a lot of people that were road travelers, right? Executives that were used to being on the road all the time miss that in-person meetings and so forth. So there's a balance, but I do agree with you. And the other thing it has shown too, companies always wondered if their infrastructure would hold, right? It has. So it was a good disaster recovery experiment too. So we want to thank you very much, Cathryn, for being with us today. We can't say how much we've loved having you. Tammy, you've done a fantastic job. So we appreciate that as well. Thank you. We want to thank Dan Chomelsky. He is with Madison Alexander PR firm, and he handles all our public releases and does a fantastic job. Jenny Lee Lynn Robinson, who is our marketing manager for C-Suite, but she also has her own company. So if you're in need, all the branding, everything you see, the invitations, all that great creativeness comes from Jenny. Asha is our social media consultant. Wendy Pomerantz, Bertha May Brownies. She's one of the sponsors. That's part of the gifts that we'll be giving to both Tammy and to Cathryn. And then Nicole with Red Rover. And so I'll turn it over to Diane to kind of close us up. But remember, become a member of C-Suite because you have all those special perks and get active. You have a great networking of women here to add to your network. So Diane, take it away. You're on mute.
Oh, the famous words, right? You're on mute. After this, we're going to keep this open if anyone wants to just hang out, talk, chat, say hello. Just a reminder, our next event is Thursday, May 20th with Mimi Donaldson of Pitch Perfect. And we really encourage everyone, just get involved. You know, pandemic's ending, we're going to start moving around, but you know, this is your network. So thank you for coming.
And never let your network continue to build it. That's my one piece of advice. So that's why organizations like C-Suite are so good for you.
Right. And we're going to be starting a Women on Boards initiative that we're going to be announcing soon. I don't remember the date on that, but everybody here is welcome. We want to figure out as a community, how do we get on these boards, whether it's a for-profit, a nonprofit, a government board, how do you go about doing it? Let's do it as a community. Let's raise everybody up.
Right.